my mother and father was like, there's one rule of law. It's ours. It's not a democracy. We ain't negotiating. We're the boss. You do what the hell we tell you to do. And when you get old enough, you can go out on your own and do what you want to do and live by your own rules. But until then, I mean, that's just the way it was. When you talked about, gay rights, they didn't mind that. But if you came and you talked about transgender and you talked about, well, you know what, I believe that I'm a member of the opposite sex that I happen to be, that my body happens to be right now. No, maybe it was a different time. You couldn't come to my parents like that. You couldn't come to my parents and be like, you know what, I don't like the way you treat me. I'm going to have you arrested. They'd be like, really? Let me whip your ass now. You understand what I'm saying? And, by the way, let them come get you. You think foster care is going to be better than this house? Good luck with that. This is not a democracy. You do what you're told. And so, strong national security, monitoring borders and stuff like that. My family, we from the West Indies. My mother and father were born in the islands, St. Thomas and Antigua. You understand? It's like they're looking at stuff and you could see the issues that we have with immigration right now. Oh, my mother and father be like, get your behind at the back of the line. Like we had to. Who do you think you are? You understand? That's how folks act. Law enforcement father the whole social justice movement, and you saw riots in the streets and stuff like that, throwing up your hands to a police officer. My father would have looked at me and said, I hope they whipped your ass. My mother would have been like, if they throw you in jail, I won't even come visit you. She's like, the law is the law. You obey the law. When I got a speeding ticket, my mother said, well, how fast were you going? She didn't sit up there and say the cops were profiling me. How fast were you going? What did you do? Let's deal with you first. It's real easy to point the finger blame. Let's deal with you. And that's what my mother taught me to be.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Stephen A. Smith, or as I like to call him, Stephen A. Simp, because he went on Patrick Bet-David's show to discuss politics, the 2024 election, Biden versus Trump, and a lot of people have been asking about why Stephen A. Smith is getting so much attention when it comes to politics and his political opinions. Well, the reason is simple, right? The reason why is because Stephen A. Smith represents the subsection of vote blue no matter who voters that are the reason why this country is in the place that it is in, okay? In the sense that he's not an unreasonable guy, right? He knows better than to come out here and to vote for Democrats and their terrible policies, but he does it anyway. And because he knows better, and when you listen to him talk, he knows how bad Democrat policies have been. His reason and his justification doesn't really make sense. And it's extremely frustrating because if people like him actually voted along with logic, reasoning, if they didn't vote out of emotion, then the country would be in a much better place. We would not have a Biden presidency, okay? We would not be in the position that we're in right now. But it's because of people like Stephen A. Smith that know better, but yet still vote Democrat no matter what. Again, that's the problem, okay? And again, it's the same reason why people are fascinated by Joe Rogan, okay? The difference between Joe Rogan and Stephen A. is that Joe Rogan, he's actually willing to change his vote, right? He's actually willing to say, hey, you know what? I realize that, voting for Democrat is not necessarily the way to go. This time I'm going to vote for a Republican, right? I might not be the biggest Trump fan in the world, but things was much better under Trump than they are under Biden. I'm going to vote for Trump, right? I think he's probably going to vote for Trump. But Stephen A., on the other hand, no. He's saying, I'm still going to vote for Biden. Despite all these complaints I have about Democrats, despite acknowledging that Trump was better, okay, I'm still going to vote for Democrats, right? I'm still going to vote for Biden, okay? And that is extremely frustrating. So, he went on Patrick Bet-David's show, and Patrick Bet-David is going to confront Stephen A. on his Trump derangement, okay, in the most Patrick Bet-David way possible, right? Very respectful, but we all know what he's getting at here in regards to why Stephen A. refuses to vote based off basic logic and reasoning. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm on this guy's side. I don't like what you did. The truth is this.
Right.
So we can look at a couple things with 2024 in a few different ways. What we have right now, Stephen A., that I think is easy to do is two things. You actually have, for once, we haven't had this. You got two people we get to vote for that we got 4 years to choose from each. It's not a what if.
Right.
It's not do you want somebody like Hillary Clinton? Do you want a man like this to have access to the nuclear button?
Right.
I don't know if I do. Right. Well, guess what? You know he had it for 4 years.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
And you know this guy had it for 4 years. What happened? So it's actually very easy systematically to sit there with data and say, they went after this guy. I was convinced he was tied to Russia.
Right.
$35 million Hillary Clinton. That was a lie. And everybody in the mainstream media was behind it. Everybody. CNN, MSNBC. Guys, that's kind of shitty. And then you try to defame character. Then you went after the girls. Then E. Jean Carroll, $83 million. Right. Anderson Cooper asks, did he rape you? Well, I think rape is more of a fantasy. What are you talking about? We got to go to break, right? Answer the question. 91 different counts. Mar-a-Lago's only worth $18 million. Right. This is not that good. He thinks it's something. And then all of a sudden, CNN shows this week, well, Mar-a-Lago, if he was to do a fire sale, he could sell it for $240 million.
Yeah.
What happened to the $18 million? Listen, all of these things are unfair. Right. And then this guy would go sit with anybody in any interview, to any platform, to anybody, CNN, Fox, CBS, ABC, 60 Minutes. It didn't matter. This guy is a gamer, will go anywhere, right? And you go on the other side, no way. How many times did Obama go sit with Bill O'Reilly? One time. How many times did Hillary Clinton? How many times has Biden been on Fox? How many times? How many times has Biden, how many times have you interviewed Hillary, Bill Clinton, Obama, or Joe Biden yourself?
No, never.
How's that possible? But you've interviewed McCain. So to me, when I watch some of this stuff, and you're on their side, like for the most part during that time. At that time. So
not now.
But
go ahead.
But then when you bring it today and you see what's going on, and the confusing part for me is like my mom's side, all Democrats. They were communists. My dad said they were imperialists. So there was a debate between the two where rich people are greedy and poor people are lazy. So I had to kind of figure it out on my own to see where the reality was. Today, 4 years versus 4 years, we got 3 Afghanistan screw up. Ukraine and Russia. Looks like we're going to have to give these guys another Afghanistan of a couple $1 trillion of taxpayers' money that we keep sending money. Oh, great.
Right.
Israel, Hamas. Okay, all right. Whether we know everything about the history of it or not, how come this didn't happen 4 years ago? How come there was nothing going on 4 years ago? So when you look at it that way, what is happening a lot, that I talk to guys who are celebrities, influencers, Hollywood, TV, somebody that you watch, there's a couple different camps. There's the one camp that is like, look, man, I'm still going to vote left. There's the other camp that says, dude, I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for, which is kind of like the middle. Like if you had that one interview with Denzel, who did you vote for? It's none of your business.
That's right.
I don't know if you remember that interview.
I totally remember. Yeah. I don't blame him for that either because Hollywood's different.
Exactly.
Hollywood's different, and they would hold him accountable in ways most others can't nor would.
But here's the feeling I'm getting with you, bro. The feeling I'm getting with you, which is why I'm kind of like enamored with like the journey you're going through. I'm just kind of following it.
Right.
I think you got to fight. And I think, moms left certain values of pride and dad. And it's like, hey, dude, you got a job to protect this country that gave you this life. And I feel like there is something going on with you that's kind of like, you want to talk, but, it's kind of like, am I really going to say this? Can I really say this?
It's not that. It's not.
No, it is that. 100% is that. Right? That's exactly what it is. Again, before we get into Stephen A. Smith, in his mental gymnastics, trying to justify why he basically agrees with how terrible Biden's been, but he's still going to vote for Biden anyways. Patrick Bet-David is bringing up a great point, right? He's bringing up the point that, listen, we're in a rare moment, okay, where we don't have to use hypotheticals to say what a presidency is going to be like, right? When it comes to this candidate versus another candidate, okay? I mean, we saw what it was like 4 years under Trump versus what it was like 4 years under Joe Biden. Now, everything they said bad would happen under Trump didn't happen, okay? The economy was great. The border was way more secure. Crime was down. We were respected on the world stage. We didn't have any new wars. We have more peace in the Middle East than recent history, right? Generally under Trump, the world seemed to be in a lot more of a stable place, right? Now, again, what the mainstream liberal media was worried about was Trump's tweets, right? The worst thing about the Trump administration was Trump's tweets, right? According to mainstream liberal media, okay? That's what was causing chaos and panic. But to everyday, average, normal Americans, we were in a much more stable place. Okay. Now, fast forward to the Biden administration, all the things that they claim what happened under Trump actually started to happen under Biden when you talk about the negative things. Well, the economy's not great. We're entering these new wars. Crime is out of control. The world is not necessarily a stable place. Putin, Russia is emboldened. Okay. Our enemies are emboldened. We're being mocked. We're being laughed at. I mean, listen, you have countries in their state-sponsored television making satirical, SNL type skits mocking the president of the United States. We are much closer to the possibility of a nuclear war under Biden than we ever were under Trump. Period. All these things they claim what happened under Trump is actually happening under Joe Biden. So we don't need hypotheticals to say how somebody's presidency is going to be. We have actual data to compare. Now, the rational person, okay, taking their emotions out of it, will say, hey, they said all these things will happen under Trump, but they didn't happen. Should I continue to believe that the things that they claim is going to happen under next Trump presidency is going to happen, considering how none of these things happened in Trump's first presidency? That's how a rational person would think about it. But Stephen A is not a rational person.
It's just that I want to be as sure as you are. That's what I'm saying. I owe it to the audience. I owe it to the people to make sure that if I'm going to come out with fire and brimstone, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And sometimes when it comes to these issues, I don't. So I'm just being honest about it.
Bro, what would happen if you came out and you said, let's just say in the month of October, Stephen A came out. Let's be real here.
Sure.
You came out on your podcast, obviously not at the network you would, but on your podcast, you said, guys, I'm going to say something right now. You guys are going to be very upset at me.
Okay.
What happened if you in the month of October said, I'm voting for Trump? What would happen?
I'd be called a sellout in my own community. That would be automatic. That's exactly what they would say. But what I would tell you is to know something about me, I wouldn't give a damn.
Well, you do actually care, right? That's a lie. I can tell you for a fact, Stephen A. Smith cares a lot, okay? And I've already, went into the reasons why Stephen A. Smith 100% cares about what the so-called black community thinks about him based off what happened with the Kaepernick situation before in the past, okay, where he got a lot of pushback for not standing up for Kaepernick, standing behind Kaepernick, and the fact that Kaepernick clearly and obviously was not really trying to get back in the NFL. What he was doing was a scam. And that's the reason why he comes out here and he plays the race card so much when it comes to sports, is because he's getting that pushback from the black community, right? The woke revolutionaries telling him that he has to be more pro-black, right? That you're selling them out if you don't come out here into basically race bait or national television. And that's why he does it, right? He's essentially admitted that, yeah, I get a lot of pushback when I don't come out here and play the race card enough. So therefore, I feel like I have to do it because, again, he doesn't want to be called a sellout. He doesn't want to be called all the racial slurs that black people get called. And that's why he can't come out here and have the cojones to say, I'm going to vote for Trump, right? That and the fact that, again, he probably lose his job if he said that, okay, because we know that ESPN is owned by Disney, which is a liberal organization, and there's no way that Disney would allow somebody like Stephen A. Smith, who's on a show like First Take that has a large black viewership, for him to come out and to overtly say that he's supporting Trump, that he's going to vote for Trump. That would never, ever, ever slide, right? He would lose his job. He would get fired. So I got to give Stephen A. Smith the benefit of the doubt. He may come out here and say that he's going to vote for Biden, but he might actually vote for Trump, okay, secretly. He just can't come out here and say it. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. But again, I still have to criticize him for deciding to get into politics. If you're going to get into politics, okay, you're going to come out here and you're going to say, I'm going to vote for Biden, despite knowing better, I'm still going to vote for him. I have to now question you. I have to question your reasoning. I have to question whether or not you're a rational individual. And if you're not a rational individual, why the hell should anybody listen to you? Why the hell are you even talking about politics, especially if you're afraid to actually speak your mind? Now, again, he claims that he doesn't care about the backlash from the black community, but I assure you, he 100% cares. He 100% cares. And that's, again, part of the reason why he plays the race card so much, why he's always on this pro-black, as a black man nonsense all the time is because he's constantly trying to prove his blackness. Always.
I'm not scared. I'll say what I feel. Let me address the point that you made earlier. My belief is I'm going to vote for Biden.
Of course.
Now, you have to remember, it's how you're looking at the presidential election might be a little bit different than me. For example, I'm the kind of person that might vote for the president being a Democrat and every other position Republican. Every senator, every congressional figure, every local. In other words, because I view the presidency, I understand it's the commander in chief. I get it. But I view, and listen, I will preface it by saying I'm open to correction. I truly am. I view the presidency as more of a statesmanship position. If I interviewed Trump, I would look him in his face and tell him why. I'm not calling you a racist. I'm not saying that all of your policies were wrong. Hell, the economy was thriving before COVID. I remember. But you don't know how to act. I said, you don't care what you say. You don't care about how divisive you come across. You don't have any sensitivity whatsoever to how you scare the living hell out of people with your rhetoric and with your aloof. I don't know if the word is aloofness or just a disregard for the importance of unity. You believe in America. I believe in America. Let me tell you what I believe in about America. I believe that when we're together, nothing can stop us. Nothing. I don't care if it's a bad president. I don't care if it's bad people on Capitol Hill. I don't care if corporate America is garbage. I don't care if Wall Street's messing up. We will overcome anything when we're together. And I remember how
All right. So Stephen A. is going to get into how we were united after 9/11. Okay. So I want to address this, okay, because this is the point of the interview, right? So Stephen A. basically acknowledges that, hey, I'm looking at picking the president different than how you're looking at picking the president, right? And he says, well, Trump's policies were great. Definitely better than what's going on with Biden, right? And we've seen Stephen A. have a lot of criticisms for the Democrats. But Trump doesn't know how to act. I'm the type of person that will vote for a Democrat as president, but vote for Republicans down ballot. Now, let's actually take a step back and let's evaluate how does that make sense, right? Does that actually really make sense considering where we're at in this country? Okay. First and foremost, let's evaluate Stephen A's statement about voting Democrat, aka Biden, but then voting Republican down ballot, right? Republicans win the House, or they extend their lead in the House, which they might not have a lead in the House by the time the election comes around, who knows? And they win back the Senate. Joe Biden's still president. How does that solve some of our most pressing issues that we have in this country, like, for example, the border crisis? Because we know that Joe Biden will not enact Trump's executive orders to help secure the border. We know that Democrats in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, won't consider the Secure the Border Act, which is Republican legislation that was passed to secure the border. Now, again, if Republicans take back the Senate, then it's a possibility that they can get it to Joe Biden's desk. But if Joe Biden vetoes it and sends it back, there's not a good chance that even with a Republican majority in the House or the Senate that they're going to be able to overcome that veto, right? To override that veto. So we're still stuck with a border crisis because, people like Stephen A. said, oh, well, I don't like the way Trump acts. I'm going to vote Republican down the ticket, except I'm just not going to vote for a Republican when it comes to president, right? I'm not going to vote for Trump to be president. So you're not actually really solving a problem, because what we need is a Republican presidency. We need a Republican House, and we need a Republican Senate. That's how you actually get stuff done. Right now is not the time for gridlock. We don't need gridlock right now. Well, we need gridlock in regards to stopping the Democrats from making things worse, but we don't need gridlock when it comes to the next presidential election and fixing the problems. We need a Republican majority up and down the board, right? That's what we actually really need if we want work our way towards fixing some issues. Okay, so Stephen A is essentially calling for gridlock because, well, Orange Man bad. Well, why is Orange Man bad? Again, that's a question that I would have followed up with if I was Patrick Bet-David and said, okay, well, you claim, well, Trump doesn't know how to act, his rhetoric. Well, what about Trump's rhetoric? What specifically did Trump say that makes you think that he's so divisive? Because again, this idea that Trump is so divisive is a creation of the mainstream liberal media. Because if you actually listen to what Trump says in context of what he's actually really saying, what Trump is saying is not divisive. It's what the media does. And again, it's funny because Stephen A. Smith knows this. Like, he admitted that the bloodbath comments from the mainstream liberal media were out of context. When you look at Trump's comments about illegal immigrants poisoning the blood of the country, the dude's clearly talking about, again, illegal immigrants, and not just talking about illegal immigrants, but talking about criminals, drug dealers, gang members, human traffickers. But the media tried to make it seem like he's talking about all immigrants. So when you consider the fact that most of Trump's divisive comments are the mainstream media taking it out of context and spinning it into something that is not, is it really Trump causing the divisiveness, or is it the media causing the divisiveness? Because if you come to the conclusion that it's the media, then it doesn't make sense to come out here and say, well, Trump doesn't know how to act. Because it doesn't matter what Trump says, the media is going to spin it in a way to make it seem as divisive as possible. Again, this is what bothers me about people like Stephen A. I personally think in his mind that he knows all this stuff. But he doesn't have the cojones to come out here as somebody that works for a liberal network to say, hey, I'm going to vote for Trump. And who knows? I mean, he might legitimately feel the way he feels. He might legitimately feel like Trump is going to start a civil war. But his logic and reasoning behind it is flawed. If Trump gets back in office and there's a civil war, just basic logic, who started the civil war? Was it Trump? Was it Trump supporters? Because if Trump wins, why would Trump supporters start a civil war? Who would be mad if Trump wins? Well, liberals would be mad, right? The people that are actually going to start a war would be the left. So how's it Trump's fault if a civil war happens if he wins, if the left are the people that start the war, if they get mad? Doesn't make sense. But Stephen A. has stated that, well, I don't know if I want to vote for Trump because Trump is going to start a civil war. So are you saying that you don't want to vote for Trump because the left is going to get mad? Right? That's essentially what you're saying. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me. So again, personally, I just don't think that anything that Stephen A. Smith is saying makes sense outside of he's just scared. You're scared of the backlash that you're going to get from the black community. You're scared that you're going to lose your job, but yet you want to talk about politics. But it's clear and obvious you're compromised, which is why you need to come out here and to assure your liberal handlers that, listen, I know I'm criticizing Democrats, but listen, I'm going to vote for Biden. I'm still saying vote for Biden. I mean, he's not even taking the route of, well, hey, I don't know. I'm still, trying to figure it out. No, he's come out and, yeah, I'm still going to vote for Biden. But I still want to criticize these Democrats because ultimately he don't want to get that lashing that black people get in the media when they come out here and they support Trump, right? Again, imagine if Stephen A. Smith actually came out here and said, I'm going to support Trump, right? Imagine if he said that. Oh, man. People would lose it. There'd be discussion. They wouldn't even be able to talk sports on First Take, right? Because they'd be questioning Stephen A. on why he's supporting Trump, why he's so anti-black. Wouldn't happen. But he can come out here and comfortably say, well, I'm going to vote for Biden. The same guy that said, well, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, right? Again, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It really blows my mind. Again, this is the vote blue no matter who mentality. And people like him, again, are the reason why this country is in the place that is in, why people don't seem to vote based off the actual conditions of the country and policy. They vote based off of emotion. Everything that this man's saying is nothing but emotions, okay? And I understand that, look, everything Trump says is not perfect. There's some things that Trump says, even without the mainstream liberal media spin, you're like, I don't know about that, right? That might be a little off. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what's more important? Policy or rhetoric? In which, if you actually look at the rhetoric in totality, again, not nearly as bad as what the mainstream liberal media makes out to be. So again, what's more important? What's more important? You had Joe Biden, who I think, in my opinion, his rhetoric ain't all that inclusive, right? He's definitely divisive, and he has bad policy. So what's the choice here? Good policy and divisive rhetoric versus bad policy and divisive rhetoric. Which one you want, Stephen A? Apparently, Stephen A wants bad policy and divisive rhetoric, right? Again, it's just amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. These people, again, they blow my mind. They really do. It's people like him. They're the reason why this country is in such a bad place, because they know better, but yet they decide to vote for the destruction of this country rather than to, vote in the right direction for what's best for the country. Because again, they're voting with their emotions, not their logic and their reasoning. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.